Welcome to MPS 5.532. MPS is a professional swing identification and pattern recognition software that was primarily created for objective market research. But you can also use it for your real-time trading because it draws emerging patterns exactly the same way as it draws historical ones. I would say the opposite way. It draws historical patterns exactly the same way it draws emerging patterns. And to see it, we simply scroll back into history, and you will see that if a pattern is a loss, it is drawn as a loss. If it is a reversal, you see it is drawn as a reversal. So stop loss, reversal. If the pattern was never completed and it was invalidated, it still stays on your chart, and you see invalidated patterns as well. If the reversal started earlier or reversal started later, still the pattern stays on your chart. If the pattern was a potential pattern, was never completed, or it was completed, it still stays on your chart. So only when historical patterns are drawn as emerging patterns, only if your software doesn't care if the pattern is completed or not, if the pattern was a loser or a winner, only in this case you have objective market research. Now you see this panel here. It is called the graphic user interface, and you can expand that panel here. So inside of this panel you have access to majority of MPS functions. First of all, the access to algorithms. There are two types of algorithms. They belong to group 1 and group 2. So you have 5 algorithms in group 1 plus manual, and you have 5 algorithms in group 2 and plus manual. Totally you have 10 automated swing identification algorithm and 1 manual swing identification algorithm. Then you have section 1 and section 2. In section 1 you have up to 8 patterns depending on your settings, and in section 2 you have up to 8 patterns as well. In indicator parameters I will explain you how you set your patterns and how you can have different patterns on your chart. You also have this button that is reversing your pattern in case you wish your pattern to be a trend continuation pattern rather than a trend reversal pattern. So you see, you simply can switch between here. All these algorithms are available on your keyboard as well. So you see, you can stop your indicator from calculation. Click on this button. You can minimize, maximize panel. Click in here. You can change your groups on your keyboard, group 1, group 2. You can change your sections on your keyboard. You can switch between algorithms here. All these functions work even if you have a minimized panel. So you see, I'm switching the algorithms. As you might have noticed, if I switch to different algorithms, different patterns are drawn like this. So it is mandatory that your real-time trading is exploiting the same swing identification algorithm as you were using in your backtesting. Just imagine the situation. Some market researcher like me, some scientist, performed a market research using this Prex 8 algorithm, and he says, you know what, the patterns that I found, they have this ratios, and they are 70% correct. So if you use these patterns, you can generate millions of dollars. And then in your real-time trading, you start trying to use these patterns, but because you don't know my swing identification methodology, you may be using this swing identification methodology, which is a Williams percent range, if you have some mechanical swing identification, or maybe you are using manual swing identification, or maybe a commodity channel index or whatever. Because you are using different swing identification methodology, of course you will be drawn different patterns, and of course you will have different probabilities that are not in agreement with what I have in my market research results and with what I demonstrated to you as a winning pattern. Of course, first of all, when you go and get a pattern identification training course, you should first know what was the swing identification in the market research. You should have the same swing identification in your real-time trading. Thanks to MPS, you have 10 swing identification algorithms. They are most popular algorithms, and majority of traders use some variations of these swing identifications. Okay, every swing identification algorithm, of course, is set in indicators parameters, and you can also change these settings of the your swing identification directly in this graphic user interface. So just change the parameter, press 30 maybe, press enter, and you see larger swings are detected. Change it to 8 back, and you see smaller swings are detected. Very handy. Now let's go into indicator parameters and let us see what is inside the MPS. Inside of MPS we have these properties. First you have a license key, then you have the ID. What is an ID? ID means the identification number. You can attach up to 5 indicators into one chart. So let me demonstrate this. So this is ID number 1, and it shows this pattern. And let me open this. Let me go to indicators, and let me go to MPS, and let me change ID to 2. Let me load my license key, ID number 2, and let me change maybe the pattern. Yes, so I will use this code ACF. I will explain you what is this code, and it will show me a different pattern. So if I click OK, you see it appears right next to my first indicator. So you see, and each indicator is using its own settings. So the first one is drawing these black patterns, and the second one is drawing these purple patterns or magenta patterns. Of course, you have 16 patterns available here. You just code 16 patterns here. You then have 16 patterns here. Total is 32. And of course, you may code up to 5 indicators. 5 multiplied 16. Total number of patterns available is 80 patterns. So 80 pattern variations with different B point C point ratio combinations are those that you like. Okay, so let me delete the indicator, fast delete, pressing this X button. Okay, now let's go back to properties, and let us see what else we have in MPS. In MPS we can show our oversold overbought conditions and show our swings. There are these two. So the swings are these ones, yes, and overbought oversold conditions are these dots. So when you have this dot, you understand that the oscillator actually entered overbought condition. And when you have the dot to the downside, it means that oscillator actually entered oversold condition. I like to have them on my chart. Instead of using oscillators applied in the bottom of my chart, I simply know when the candle is overbought or oversold according to my settings. Indicator shows the oversold and overbought conditions. I also like when the swings are drawn, but I can disable them in the settings of the indicator. So I'll just go here and I will go disable this, let's say false and false. So now no swings will be drawn, and when I enable the pattern, the pattern is drawn, but we don't have any swings and we don't have any overbought oversold conditions, only patterns, naked patterns here. Okay, now let's go back to our parameters. What else do we have? Further, we have should I display targets? By default it is true, but if we apply false, so we'll see what happens. No targets will be displayed. You see only stop loss and the entry. Okay, what else we have in this indicator? We have this algorithm settings. They are the default algorithm that will be used. Right now it is set as price extreme, so let it be. And then we have the parameters of the indicators. Every time you switch the algorithm in indicator graphic user interface, the default settings I applied. The default ones are those that you set here in indicator properties. You see, so stochastics and other stuff, they are all set first, and then when you switch them, you simply choose between them. Then you have some filters. You can filter patterns by direction. It is very simple, both bullish or bearish. Very simple filter. Then you can filter them using the XA size. Minimal XA size is set by default is set to 1, and maximal is set to 34 ATR size. Of course, you can use your filter as well. Let's say you never trade patterns that have less than 3 ATR XA size. Okay, you also have the YX swing ratio. The YX swing ratio is the previous swing, the previous prior to XA, and you can set if this swing is larger than XA, then the pattern is considered a reversal. If it is not larger, then the pattern is considered as a trend continuation pattern. So switching Y to X ratio, you can also filter some patterns. Now let's have pattern settings. First, you set the default section to be displayed in graphic user interface, section 1 or section 2, and then you have all 16 patterns settings. So I will only set one pattern because other settings, other patterns are completely the same. First of all, what you should do, should you display the pattern? By default, all the patterns are false, so you simply need to switch that true, and when you apply that, you see, first pattern is true. Of course, if you disable that, the first pattern will be false. Let's go to back to indicator properties. Let's go back to our parameters. So type the name of your pattern. Let's be Unified Gartley, UG. Choose the color of your pattern. Let it be blue. Yes. Choose the color transparency. I want the transparency be very full. So let it be this way. Choose the minimal B point. I want the minimal B point be 1/3. I want the maximal B point be 75, 0.75, 3/4. I want the C point retracement be AB or XA. This is very important, how you calculate the C point retracement or extension. So standard is AB. I want the minimal C point be 1/3, maximal C point be full of AB, 100% of AB. I want my completion to be XA, AB, or BC ratio. Typically, it is an XA ratio, the completion, but sometimes in advanced formation, they use an AB completion. In a Gartley advanced formation and butterfly advanced formation, the 127 AB level is used. Also, you can use a BC as your completion point. Let's say it is an XA, and let it be 3/4, 75% of X to A. Then what you need to set is the stop loss type. You can use Fibonacci extension. The stop loss is based on your X to A leg. So if you use Fibonacci, it is an extension of your XA leg. Then you use your pipsage or ATR. The pipsage is how many pips you use above the invalidation level, and ATR is how many ATRs you use above the invalidation level. So MPS knows what is the invalidation for standard patterns, and if you use your custom pattern, which is not standard, your invalidation level will be based on your XA leg. So if I set 105 XA extension, it will be my stop loss level, which will be displayed here. So let me apply these settings, and you see my patterns turned blue, and they all have no transparency at all. So let me make them a bit more transparent. 0.4 is very nice for transparency. Okay, now we have them this way. Very handy. Of course, you can use color differentiation. For example, you use Gartley's red, you use butterflies black, you use, let's say, Pesavento blue, you use custom patterns green, and whatever. If you are not a professional trader, if you never tested patterns and you don't have your own pattern variation, which is tested and that you found working, you can use standard patterns. And to use standard patterns, you simply need to apply codes. Okay, let me open parameters once again. let's go to our settings and let's use this first pattern. So if you will apply the ACF, this is deciphered as advanced cipher formation. So let's apply this purple. Yes, then all these settings will be ignored except the stop loss, because it will apply standard cipher formation settings. So if you set 113 for ciphers as the most common stop loss value for ciphers, and you press OK, you see you have no patterns here at this section, but you have them here a bit earlier, here on history. Both completed patterns, winning patterns, losing patterns, all type of patterns are drawn. Okay, now let's go back into settings, and let's say we also want to use some butterfly pattern, yes, and we want to use harmonic butterfly. Let's enable second pattern. We will turn it to false, and we will type it harmonic butterfly pattern, and let it have a black color. We say the rest is the same, and for butterflies I don't want them exceed the 161A Fibonacci extension. So if I apply it here, you see this harmonic butterfly pattern is applied, and if we will go somewhere deeper here, you see the harmonic butterfly is applied. So projection level A, B, C, D. Projection also is drawn here. We can disable one in case it appears as an emerging pattern. So let us switch. This one is an emerging and it is drawn in advance. So if you are a butterfly trader and you use Prex 8 algorithm, this is very important that you use Prex 8 algorithm, because you have backtested this algorithm. If you have backtested a different algorithm, you should use different algorithm, and maybe you don't have any butterflies here. Okay, so this is a so-called harmonic butterfly pattern. The total list of all codes is given to you with MPS files. I will also show you the preset file that I created for MPS. So simply load this preset, and it is called standard patterns. So in this preset we have these patterns: advanced formations, harmonic patterns, percival patterns, and custom patterns as well. So all standard patterns are exploited here, and if you will look at the name, every pattern already has the name ABF, ACF, the code ABUF, P1F. All of them are already coded P2F. You simply need to load a standard pattern preset, you see, and they will be set. Let me click this. You see section 1 has all patterns displaying. You see, I simply switch that off. And if we click to section 2, you see also all patterns are displayed. So let's enable this, this, and this. Let's enable this, maybe this one and this. So depends on what patterns you trade, depends on what patterns you back tested, and of course depending on what algorithm you tested. You see, you can have different patterns, different algorithms as well. I also give you a unified Gatli, which is my personal pattern that I love to use a lot. Okay, that's it about the MPS 5.532. So if you have an older version, of course this latest update is free for you. All future updates are free for you, and I hope you will enjoy this.